Okay, hi there, yearbook. So we're going to continue our learning about writing, and today we're going to be talking about leads. So what a lead is. Okay, so when you look at a spread, the first thing that should draw you in is the amazing photograph that we have on the spread. So boom, photograph pulls you in. Then from the photograph, your eye should travel to the primary headline, the big headline that captures your attention. All right, so we go from photograph to headline, which gives us a little bit more information about it. Then from the headline, we should go to the secondary headline, which is a sentence without a period, usually, and it gives us more information. So we're transitioning from photograph to attention-grabbing headline to secondary headline, which gives us a little bit more information, and that transitions us into the lead. So the lead, what a lead is it's the opening sentence. This really should grab and hold the reader's attention. We need to use specific interest arousing words. So it is the first thing that your person reads with the body copy, and it's like something sugary sweet. It like pulls them in, it grabs them. So a good lead should leave the reader wondering what happens next, and it will encourage them to read on. So first we're going to talk about some different ways to do a lead. So again, put these in your notes. These are different styles of leads. So the first one we're going to talk about is a narrative lead, which a narrative lead is longer, and what it does is it tells a story. So an example here, which you can read along: unwilling to accept the news he had just received from the doctors, he lowered his head in defeat. His mother sat speechless in the corner, one tear rolling down her face as she saw her son's chance to claim state wrestling medal disappear because his heart just wouldn't allow it. Woo! So that definitely tells us a story. There's no quotes in there, but you can see going from a very impactful photo to a headline to a secondary headline, and then reading this, you'd be like, oh, what happens next? I need to read the rest of the story. So again, a narrative lead, a good one, sets the stage. It tells us a story, which leads us into the body copy, which informs us more. All right, so next type of lead is a descriptive lead. This is not as kind of dramatic. It describes a person or event. So an example, Deion Sanders Jr. knows what they say in the hallways. They say he'll be a terrible quarterback, that he's too short, that he can't see squat past the 6 feet something offensive lineman, yada, yada, yada. So essentially, you are getting the scene painted for you about who Deion Sanders Jr. is. We're describing that person or that event. So we know that Deion Sanders Jr., that people say that he'll be a terrible quarterback, that he happens to be short, that he'll never amount to anything, that he's cocky. So we're describing that person, or you can describe an event, and that's a descriptive lead. So describing, descriptive, duh. Not really duh, but there you go. Okay, so next kind of lead is a direct quote lead. So when we're doing this in the yearbook, we do want to use this sparingly, because if we start every single body copy or extended caption with a direct quote, it gets a little bit tiring, and it's kind of predictable for our viewer. So a direct quote is essentially a direct quote from someone speaking. So Coach Hawkins is how they start this one. So again, it kind of grabs your attention, it pulls you in to read more. But again, with the direct quote lead, we want to use it sparingly. All right, and then last but not least, we want to think about maybe using a startling statement lead. So this really creates a lot of drama. So she never knew she had it, or Junior Josh Duckworth has a fetish. Like that last one, you'd be like, what? And that would definitely pull you in to like read more about what the heck is going on here. So again, this creates a lot of drama, a lot of interest. But I would say also with a startling statement lead, we want to use it sparingly, just like the other types. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some things to avoid when we're using leads or writing leads. So the first thing that we want to avoid is starting with generalizations. So a generalization with America engaged in a war in Iraq, many students know U.S. military men who have lost their lives. That's pretty general. So instead, you might want to try something like naming specific people or specific events, giving more information rather than generalization like America, many students, men who have lost their lives. Get really specific, like who are the students, who have lost their lives, things like that. Another thing we want to avoid is news or editorial leads. So rather than like, congratulations to Sarah Clark for making the cheerleading squad, we are proud of her. That's like a news lead. So instead we want to do something like Sarah Clark knows what they think. The smirks, the laughs, the way the other girls all week long in cheerleading practice have been rolling their eyes. They think she's a joke. That's a lot more interesting than going, congratulations to Sarah Clark. So again, we want to really make sure we're pulling the viewer in. So also we want to avoid stating the obvious. Rather than every day millions of people wake up, go to work, or go to school, but some days they don't. Duh, right? Everybody wakes up, goes to work, goes to school. Like, that's super boring. Let's pull our readers in a little bit more. So instead, maybe think of Melissa hates school. It's not that she's dumb. It isn't that she doesn't fit in socially. In fact, it isn't that anything is particularly wrong. It's more of a matter of nothing being particularly right. So that's much more interesting than every day millions of people wake up, go to school, or go to work, but some days they don't. Okay, yeah, we can do a lot better than that. Don't state the obvious. And then last but not least, things that we want to avoid is cliches. So rather than say something, and the winner is, try something like, after tension-filled hours of last-minute primping, blah, da, 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 da. You guys can read the rest of the paragraph. But this is a lot more descriptive, a lot more interesting. It sets the stage, it paints the scene, rather than, and the winner is. So don't start with a cliche. All right, so when you're writing a body copy, here is kind of the formula that you can use. You're going to start off with a lead, then you're going to start off with a nut graph, nut like squirrels, a summary of what the story is going to be about, why the story is important. Then you're going to go into a direct quote from someone you've interviewed. Then you're going to go into a transition, direct quote, transition, direct quote, and so on and so forth until your story is completed. So again, this is a great format. Again, we want to start off with a very, very interesting lead to really draw our viewer in. Then we go into our nut graph, and then we go into a direct quote transition formula until our story is completed and we've addressed all the information that we need to include and have told the entire story. Okay, so with quotes and transitions, this is our last slide. It is important to get good quotes and interesting facts while sitting, it is impossible, didn't read that right. It's impossible to get good quotes and interesting facts when sitting in this room. So you need to get out of the yearbook room. You need to interview people. You need to be on the scene before, during, and after an event. You need to really be aware when you're working an event. What are the sights, the smells, the sounds? What's the drama that's being created? It's a great habit when you're going and you're reporting on about a particular event, maybe it's a football game, that you take something to write with, like a piece of paper and a pencil, a tablet and a pencil, not just your cell phone. And you write down what is like the sensory thing. Is the evening cool? Is it hot? Are there crickets? Is there the smell of buttered popcorn at the event? What are those things that you would use to describe the event? Close your eyes and listen to things. Feel, touch, those sensations we need to record because you don't remember them after the fact, and that's how we end up with generalizations or cliches. So be aware sensory-wise when you're working an event. How would you describe it to somebody who couldn't hear or couldn't see? Those ways that we would describe it are wonderful to include in your story because, again, the story, the purpose, we're telling it now so you can read it after the fact, is we need to recreate the scene. We need to tell it and paint that picture for our reader. So if we don't include those wonderful things, then you really don't get the story recreated. You don't get the sensory kind of immersion. So last thing to remember when you're writing, good reporting requires that you talk to people, taking notes, recording the conversation on your phone whenever possible. Again, we're really going to stress that a great interview starts with a good conversation. So you can't have a conversation unless you talk to people. When you're working an event, don't just talk to people that you are planning on including their direct quote. Talk to other people and get their feedback about the event, their perception of the event. That will make you more informed and give you more ammo when you're writing. All right, guys, hopefully that was really helpful about how we write leads and also the structure, the formula for writing a good body copy. And can't wait to read your writing and your descriptive leads. Thanks so much, Yurds. Have a great day.